action.
Hi, I'm Hayden Curry with History in the Present magazine. Today we're going to be interviewing trade route expert Alen.
Hi, Dr. Alen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, Alen, tell me, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we're going to be talking about the Silk Road.
The Silk Road. I love the Silk Road. Tell me about it.
Let's go for it. The Silk Road was a network of ancient trade routes formerly established during the Han Dynasty of China in 130 BC, which linked the regions of the ancient world in commerce and trade between 130 BCE and 1453 CE. It is important to note that the Silk Road wasn't one road, but many trading routes commonly used during that time. And they were the backbone of trade between the Eastern and Western world all throughout the ancient times.
Sweet.
Although this may be new information for many of you, someone many of you have heard of probably is Marco Polo, who gained his initial fame traveling on the Silk routes and describing his travels in the Travels of Marco Polo, his book. But he's not credited with naming the routes. Both terms for the network of roads, Silk roads and Silk routes, were named by German geographer and traveler Ferdinand von Richthofen in 1877 CE, when he coined Seidenstrasse, Silk Road, and Seidenstrassen, the Silk routes. But both of these travelers did observe the same things that were traded along the Silk Road.
So, Dr. Branya, what did they observe being traded along the Silk Road?
Well, they both saw horses, saddles, grapes, dogs, farm animals, animal furs, honey, fruits, glassware, wool, textiles, gold, camels, slaves, weapons and armor, and such things going from west to east. And then they saw silk, tea, dyes, precious stones, china as in like plates, bowls, cups, vases, porcelain, spices, bronze and gold artifacts, medicine, perfumes, ivory, rice, paper, and gunpowder coming from east to west. And that's including like lower Africa being considered east.
That's a lot of stuff, Alen. Thank you.
It is indeed a lot of stuff.
So, Dr. Branya, tell me about the lasting contributions of the Silk Road.
Well, before we talk about the contributions, Hayden, let's first discuss the beginnings of the Silk Road. Yeah?
Of course.
Dope. Alright, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. You have a good day?
I did. I learned a lot.
Yeah?
I'm excited. What are we even talking about next?
We're going to talk about the beginnings of the Silk Road. It's a
Oh
great
wow,
topic.
that's so interesting. So, Dr. Branya, tell me about the beginnings.
Happily, all the way back in the 2nd century BC, the Han Dynasty served as the second Chinese imperial dynasty to date, and had a mission to accomplish more than just that. Initially hoping simply to resolve the current issue of conflict with the Zhang tribes along the north and left borders, who were descendants of Alexander the Great, the Han Emperor decided in 138 BC to send an envoy off to try and form some type of alliance or garner support from the Yu Zhao of the west. As they traveled through Central Asia, the emissary Zhang Ting witnessed for the first time a variety of new people and cultures, and was particularly fascinated by the Daimyo people. To be specific, he was drawn to the horses of the Daimyo. Although the Han Dynasty had long been using horses in warfare, and even as far back as during the 11th century BC.
As I was saying before, using horses in warfare, even as far back as during the 11th century BC, in the Shang Dynasty, was a thing when the cavalry and chariots were popular. The horses of the Daiyun, though, appeared to Che to be far more superior to those that were bred in China. Admiring their size, strength, and speed, Che returned to Emperor Wu and informed them of these what he called magnificent beasts. As a result, Wu decided to purchase some of these Western horses, and in a short matter of time, with the help of their new horsepower, the Han Dynasty was able to address the Zhongnu threat, as you can see here in the scripture.
Oh yes.
Well, Emperor Wu was so impressed by Che's journey that he decided to take things a step further and officially opened the Silk Road in 130 BCE, connecting the east and west routes end to end by roughly 4,000 miles of road.
That's awesome. Wow, 4,000 miles. Was that the longest trade route?
It was indeed the longest trade route, reaching from Han China to the tips of Europe.
Was it the oldest one though?
It was not the first such road, or more accurately roads, to create an international trade. In fact, it was the Persians under Darius I and the Persian Empire who had created the original. This was known as the Royal Road, and it was stretched from Susa, which lies in modern-day Iran, all the way nearly 2,000 miles west in Sardis, Turkey. The Persians would also add smaller routes to the main one, which reached parts of the Indian subcontinent and northern Africa as well. And this network also came to be roughly 300 years prior to the opening of the Silk Road. Although later outdone by the Silk Road, the Persian Royal Road was quite impressive in itself, and the writings about its messengers provided to us by Herodotus would later become the basis of the United States Postal Service plan. The Silk Road would later bridge the Persian Road to the Han trade routes, becoming useful for many reasons, with the main being for commercial trade. Despite the fact that the term we know it by now was coined later on by Ferdinand von Richthofen, the Silk Road was a major contributor of the trade of silk throughout the region.
So, Dr. Branya, tell me about the silk that traveled these roads.
Happily. So for a long while, silk was only coming out of China. It was only being made in China because it was the ancient Chinese who figured out how to harvest it from the cocoons of silkworms. But thanks to the Silk Road, the material could make its way all the way down the western routes to Europe, and especially Rome, where the high class of Rome developed a particular affinity for it, and the demand was so high, in fact, that Rome was placed in an unfavorable trade position even after silk was banned from the empire.
Oh, really? Oh. So, Dr. Branya, I've been meaning to ask you, what were the lasting contributions of the Silk Road for, like, the average person?
See, for the average person, there were many lasting contributions. The Silk Road wasn't just like a marketplace for like rich people to like buy luxuries. Yeah, like the three main contributions I'd say of the Silk Road are commercial globalization, progress, and the sharing of ideas. Commercial globalization, we'll discuss in much more detail as we continue our day. But like the main points are really like just to like set up the backdrop for what we're going to discuss later when we're shopping, is kind of like little city-states developing, like smaller kingdoms, you know, and like self-governance, like Palmyra, where all the silk had to go through.
Oh, yeah.
It became quite the city itself, and like just like gunpowder, medicine, paper, you know, going from east to west, and these are things that revolutionized, you know, the West. Like gunpowder revolutionized warfare. Paper became like the leading canvas for like everything, for writing, mathematics. You know, medicine, needless to say, helped a lot of people, especially with the disease that was spreading throughout the Silk Road. And then, you know, from east to west, glass, armor, horses. You know, from west to east, actually, that is, glass, armor, horses. Like kind of set up the backdrop for the Mongols, you know, to come up and do their thing later on in like the 12th century. And so let's discuss commercial globalization.
Sounds good.
So let's head our way to the grocery store.
So, Dr. Branya, tell me about globalization.
Well, for example, Hayden, the shirt you're wearing has been sourced from all over the world. From Haiti to South America to Southeast Asia, all the way back to you. And probably back somewhere else after you throw it out.
That's really interesting. Could you tell me a little more?
Well, of course, pertaining to the ancient world, commercial globalization greatly progressed the economy as a result of the Silk Road, with more jobs being offered to create goods like silk and other goods that had demand increase substantially as a result of the new vast trading system, and more opportunities for wealth arose in trading, with many wealthy merchants joining the high class of their countries. In fact, this change represents the beginning of the large-scale tensions between wealth and political power. As before, the two were generally closely related. New products could be made as a result of different materials being traded. It was much easier to sell as the traders were generally willing to buy even without designated buyer due to profit margins. As globalization was occurring, naturally the advancement of society was slowly evening out. This obviously being a pro of the Silk Road, as more societies were advancing and thus all around seeing better conditions for their citizens.
Wow, that's awesome, Alen. So, Dr. Branya, now that we've talked about commercial globalization, let's talk about progress.
Happily, Hayden. Progress. Progress in this context mainly means technological advancements, the exchanging of scientific works and materials like gunpowder, which changed how wars were fought, as we talked about before, and horses, which contributed to the new fighting style of the conquerors, the incredibly successful conquerors, the Mongols, and paper from China, which became the primary canvas of the West, all discussed before. and mainly printing technology from China made its way on the road, later inspiring Gutenberg's invention of the printing press. The arrival of both technologies in Europe in the 12th and 13th centuries brought about profound change, facilitating the transmission of information. This caused an enormous development in education, commerce, communications, and cartography, which definitively accelerated the transition from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance and the modern age. The magnetic compass is also a tool that was brought into the world through the Silk Road, and ironically, as a result, would later be partly responsible for taking the Silk Road out of commission, and during the Age of Discovery, as that's when as magnetic compasses were used as navigation tools for the ships that were finding their way around, when the Ottomans decided to close down their part of the Silk Road.
Thank you, Alan.
So Hayden, before we met today for all day interview, I sent you some topics, those being the third main contribution, the sharing of ideas on the Silk Road, and also the culture of the Silk Road, to do some research on. So did you do your homework?
Of course, Alan. I studied up. I've got a couple notes here. I'll just
Tell me what you learned. Tell me what you learned.
So, I learned the Silk Road provided a network of many religions to converse and prosper. It allowed ideas of religion to be spread to new regions. Religions like Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and others were introduced to China and other countries along the Silk Road. Many schools of religion popped up on the Silk Road to spread their teachings and wisdom to travelers. In conclusion, we have the Silk Road to thank for making a safe place for many religions to coexist and prosper together.
So Hayden, tell me about the creation of new cultures or new religions on the Silk Road.
Alright, so the cross of Islam and Buddhism sort of helped in the creation of Sikhism in India, which also spread through the Silk Road the same way as many other religions did. In fact, the Silk Road is credited with the resurgence of Buddhism, and therefore is the reason why it's the major religion today.
Wow, that's incredibly interesting. So Sikhism, predominantly Indian religion, arose because India is kind of in the crossroads between like the Arabic world and the Chinese world. It's crazy. It's very cool.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so Hayden, what did you learn about science and those kinds of ideas and thoughts brought around the Silk Road?
Well, I learned that the Silk Road not only transferred goods, but it also was a passage for ideas and knowledge. Scientists and scholars, they traveled the Silk Road to spread knowledge and wisdom. One of the first sciences to emerge from the Silk Road was astronomy, and it was used as a navigational tool. It was also discovered in medieval India, and used the stars to navigate. But mathematics, chemistry, and alchemy also passed through the Silk Road, and with their help, we got it right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm very happy you brought up all of this cultural stuff, and especially the science. It's very interesting. And I think it's really cool how the Silk Road is kind of like a mix of a lot of different cultures.
Yes.
And generally, like people who, the empires along the Silk Road, or like when the Mongols had control of like most of it, they still let like the cultures, like freedom of culture, freedom of religion do its own thing.
Definitely.
And they still protected the road. Everybody understood how important it was for these different cultures and religions and peoples to have access to this road, because it was the diversity that really strengthened the trade.
Well, Alan, I just want to say thank you for the interview.
It's been a
It's
great
very
day.
good. Thank you.
It's been a
It's been a good day. Thank you.